Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mayan Joy D. Romanes. I am the Senior Education Program Specialist in Planning and Research in DepEd Cavite, and I'll be giving you an overview of what is the proposed intervention, innovation, and strategy for your next action research. I'll be discussing about the similarities and differences among innovation, intervention, and strategy. So what is innovation? The key word here is new. It is a new idea, it is a new method, or maybe a new device. It is an introduction of something new. At one point in time, we have encountered a thought that, I have a great new idea for a product or service. But before we jump to a conclusion that, I have an innovation, we have to consider the steps. Okay, the first step is that does it already exist? So an innovation may not be necessarily new to the ears of people. But the question is, does that innovation that you have thought of, does someone have already applied it to your identified problem? So if your answer is no, we will proceed with step 2. But I want to remind you that in order to answer this question, you have to exhaust all your resources. You have to check all the related studies for you to have an overview of what has already been done for your identified problem. For the second step, if your innovation does not exist, why not? You have to consider the fact that people or other researchers might have already thought of that innovation, but did not continue because it might not answer the identified need or the identified problem. So it might not really be the solution to your issue. Okay, the third step is to identify the perceived market. The perceived market is not like a place where you buy or sell your innovation. It's different. It's about your target beneficiaries. Who are your target beneficiaries? How many are them? And are they willing to use your innovation, to give time and effort to use your innovation for their problem? So these are the steps in considering an innovation. Here are the examples, actual examples of innovation in DepEd Cavite. So our first innovation is the Open Education Resource Kiosk, and the second innovation is the DepEd Cavite Info Kiosk. So we have already applied this for patent. Okay, so the OER kiosk answers to a problem in accessibility for the materials in a least mastered competency in senior high in a school in Alfonso. While the info kiosk, it answers to the problem of accessibility and lack of information in the procedures for frontline services in the division office. So these are not necessarily new to the ears. We are already familiar with the kiosk in malls, in hotels, and in other places. But like I said, step 1, does this innovation have already been applied to an identified problem? So our answer is no. For those identified problems that I mentioned earlier, these innovations, this kiosk, have not yet been applied. Okay, so let's move to intervention. What is intervention? It is an action taken to improve our situation. Or it is something that we do to solve a problem. Other teachers call it discarte. If you find the problem in your classroom, in online class, in modular class, and you thought of the solution, that could be your intervention. The most common intervention that we use is the instructional intervention. What are the things that should be there or should be considered when we are doing an instructional intervention? First, it should be intentional. We must have a target, an objective, a clear objective. What is the problem that we want to solve? What is the situation that we want to improve? It also must be specific. How long are we going to do this intervention? Will it last for weeks? Will it last for months? And then it should be formalized. How do we, or how often do we check the progress of our participants? For example, if it is a reading intervention, how often do we check the reading progress? Okay, now let's differentiate what is intervention and what is strategy. So, they say that, Oxford Languages say that instructional intervention is not just a strategy. A strategy is a set of methods or activities to teach learners a skill or concept. So it's methods and activities. That's a key word for strategy. An instructional intervention, it may include strategies. So this says that intervention is higher than the strategy. Okay? Not all strategies are interventions. Okay, now I have an example here. I want you to comment down what is the intervention used in this situation. Okay, Marcia is in the first grade. She lacks basic math skills and she doesn't recognize numbers from 1 to 10, but she hasn't been evaluated for special education. Her school schedules an hour of small group instruction each day to help her catch up. Every week, the teacher checks on her progress. Okay, you're right. The intervention here is the small group instruction, and it's specific that Marcia is given an hour of instruction each day. Okay, and how do they check the progress, or how often do they check the progress? It's every week. Okay. Now let's move on to the second example. Jeff is in 5th grade and has dyslexia. He has trouble with decoding and phonological awareness. The research team decides to give 30 minutes of multisensory reading instruction 3 times a week. Every month, his reading progress is monitored. So comment down what is the intervention used in this example. Okay, you're right. It's the 30 minutes of multisensory reading instruction 3 times a week. So it's specific. So 3 times a week of 30 minutes each. And then how often do they monitor the reading progress? It's every month. Okay, now here are the examples of intervention that are used in action research in the last school year. So the first study that we have here is the collaborative strategic reading to improve the reading comprehension skill. So the problem here that is identified has something to do with reading comprehension skills of the students. What is the intervention? It's collaborative strategic reading. Okay. And the second example, grammar cookies, an accuracy developing tool for grade 7 learners. So based on the title, we assume that there's a problem in the accuracy in grammar. So the intervention here is grammar cookies. Okay. In the part for proposed innovation, intervention, and strategy, the researchers must specify what is this grammar cookies all about? What is this intervention all about? What are the strategies? What are the activities? How often do they do this? Or how often do they check the progress of their students? So it has to be very specific. Okay. Next, peer teaching in increasing the literacy of struggling readers. So peer teaching is not necessarily that they have big brother or big sister that assist our students at risk. So this peer teaching that the researchers are telling about is about the parent-assisted reading, something like that. So in this example, the problem is the literacy skills of struggling readers. The intervention is the peer teaching. Okay, fourth example, reading Finland to improve the reading comprehension of grade 6 pupils. So the problem is in the reading comprehension of grade 6 pupils, and the discarte of the teacher or of the researcher is reading Finland. Okay, next, mathematical modeling in the very least mastered competencies in general mathematics among Indang National High School, senior high school students. So there are problems in this very least mastered competency, what is the intervention here? The intervention is mathematical modeling. So I'll be giving you possible issues in modular learning that we might encounter in the next school year. You can think of your intervention to improve the situation if you encounter these issues. Okay, so these issues is based on the findings of two researches by Dochi and Vidal-Rodero. Okay, the first possible issue, the self-discipline and the self-motivation of the learners. Second is the preparation time for modules. Third, the feedback system. This is between the teacher and the learners. Okay, fourth is the administrative resources needed to track the students, especially the technological resources. Fifth is the pressure to get good grades. This is on the part of the students. And sixth, the teacher's workload and attitudes towards modularization. You can also study other areas in modular learning, not only on the side of the students, but you can study also the problems encountered on the side of the school personnel. Okay, let me end with this very, very beautiful Facebook post from a very great ethnographer, Mr. Clement Camposano. Said that teaching versus research, someone pointedly asked me what my priority would be. Teaching or research? I say the question is problematic. Teaching and research are inherently complementary, mutually enriching activities in any university worthy of the name. If you are pursuing research at the expense of teaching, you are not being coherent. So like what I always say, teaching and research should be supportive of each other. If you want to do good in teaching, you have to research, and the research findings should go back to teaching. Thank you so much.